Why did they trick us in with the same type of enthusiasm into thinking that estrogen causes cancer, so everybody got off of it as if they were doing women a favor? And so these are things that women really need to pay attention to on what's really going on. But in order to understand what's going on, you have to understand the different HRT systems. So women can stand up and say, okay, I'm only given this low dose HRT. I need a more therapeutic dose. And if the doctor isn't able to get it, then women have to go to a doctor who knows how to prescribe therapeutic dose HRT. So women have to know enough about it to know, okay, this doctor knows what they're doing. I'm going to discover hormonal balance as I am supposed to experience it with these doctors that are trained in therapeutic dose protocols. Hello, everyone. You're listening to the MeNoPause Moxie podcast, where we strategically challenge the status quo on perimenopause, menopause, and female hormone balancing. I'm clinical hormone coach Marie Hoäg, here with my producer and co-host Maggie. Welcome to the show. Everyone is celebrating the FDA for removing the black box warning on estrogen. But before we label this as progress, we need to take a step back and ask one critical question. Why now? For 23 years, women were told estrogen was dangerous, enough to destroy an entire generation's access to hormone therapy. Yet overnight, the narrative flipped. Suddenly, estrogen is recognized as safe, powerful, beneficial, and even essential. Something the data has clearly shown for decades. And if you watched the news recently, you saw it everywhere. FDA Commissioner Dr. Marty Makary was on full media tour, morning shows, talk shows, interviews, repeating the same points about estrogen, menopause, and HRT. Some of what he said was accurate, but much of it needs context, correction, and clarification. Because nothing in science has changed, only the messaging. And when the messaging changes without science changing, it's rarely for the benefit of women. Today, Maggie and I are going to walk through several of the statements Dr. Makary made during his media appearances, talk about what's really going on, and explain why symbolic changes will never replace true hormone restoration. Hey, Maggie, it's good to have you here. You've been watching the reactions all week. What stood out to you as Dr. Makary spread the good news?
Hey, Marie, good to see you. Initially, of course, as we talked about on our last episode, it's super exciting to have the head of the FDA singing the praises of estrogen. It's super seductive almost, because it's like, I know that this is true. It's certainly how I've been living my life. And, I'm tired of it being a battle and having to fight all the time with people about the value and benefits of estrogen. So it's really validating and vindicating to hear the FDA head saying this. And yet, as I've seen more of the interviews, and again, the point you raised about, why now, it seems like all is not as it seems. And I'm not quite sure what this is about. I have some hunches, and I'm sure you do as well. So it just seems like all is not as it's being presented.
Well, I tell you, you're right, but not very many women would know that. But women like you who are on an advanced HRT system, we know what it's like to be on a low dose HRT protocol. We also know what it's like to be on an advanced HRT protocol. We both know that all the praises that Dr. Makary is talking about estrogen is true. However, the HRT protocols that they're approving and recommending women don't get those results with the protocols that they're making available for women, not long term anyway. They may in the beginning, but that fizzles out real quick. And so I think that's why you and I are a little skeptical here with this whole thing. It's like, I hear what you're saying about estrogen. There's a lot of us that knew this just because you're the one that's like being enlightened right now. So it's just, it's like, this information has been around for a while. Why now?
Well, and it's sort of to that point. So this shift, I'm guessing, didn't just come out of nowhere. It's not like Marty Makary, Dr. Makary woke up the other morning and went, you know what? estrogen's. So what's going on here? After watching, Dr. Makary promoting this everywhere, why do you think the shift is happening now?
Well, as I mentioned, it's rarely to benefit women. However, there's a smokescreen that it is for the benefit of women. And when I see this, this makes me nervous because of just this it's almost over an abundance of excitement that Dr. Makary is exuding, through the screen. And it's like, dude, for you to get this excited about estrogen all of a sudden, it's clear he's listening to other people, but this excitement isn't coming from clinical experience. Dr. Makary does not treat women with HRT, and he certainly doesn't understand the differences in HRT systems. So the science didn't change, but only the messaging did, and we should be really concerned about that. Usually messaging changes reflect in industry motives, big pharma. It's a movement on their behalf under the smokescreen of we're doing this for women. There's a big menopause movement going on right now that started a couple years ago, and it is starting to gain momentum. And the timing of this is very strategic. The media rollout is very strategic, if you ask me. And I don't think that people will see this until later on down the line, that we're in the middle of a rollout and we're being played through this wave. Women, when I say we, through this process. If you and I didn't know better, we wouldn't recognize this. I would be celebrating on a different level if I didn't know what I know with female HRT and women's clinical responses to all 4 generations of HRT. I mean, the good news is that, yes, we're lifting the black box warning, but this shift benefits big pharma and policy agendas, not women. And one of the reasons I wanted to do this show is to point this out. So women would be like, okay, yeah, why are you on this big bandwagon all of a sudden? The data's been there. It's even on low dose therapy. You can do some research in the National Library of Medicine and see the impact that estrogen has on a woman. This is basically the plan, Maggie, and that we're in this wave that we're caught up in. First, it was to create awareness to normalize menopause. And this is what these celebrity influencers are doing, what Oprah was doing. We need to celebrate this sisterhood. You and I talk about this all the time, like what's going on social media. And this social media influence that women don't realize is funded by big pharma. Then the FDA lifts the black box warning saying, we're listening to you. Let's remove this warning. The goal is to get more doctors to prescribe HRT, because that's what women are asking for. I need a doctor who knows what they're talking about. I shouldn't have to go to my doctor and tell them what to prescribe for me. So now more doctors will prescribe HRT, because the goal of lifting the black box warning is lifting the fear of estrogen and estrogen causing cancer.
Which is a good thing.
Yes, it's a good thing, but it should have happened a long time ago. Then you have to ask, okay, why were they keeping the doctors in the dark to begin with? If they knew this all along, why did they do that? Why was this fear? So the same type of movement that's happening with this awareness with HRT and menopause, there was a similar kind of movement about the scare of estrogen and getting women off of hormones, just as if it were in women's best interest. Oh, we've conducted these studies and this is in women's best interest. So it's like, does estrogen really cause cancer? Because that wasn't the history before. This is what I want women to recognize, that, yeah, we're in this wave. So now that we're in this recognition of estrogen is good and okay, more doctors are apt to prescribe it without as much fear. They still have fear, because you don't just remove fear overnight. But women will have at least more physicians they can go to for help. Then also in this movement, there will be a big push to train physicians how to prescribe HRT, because it's already been recognized that doctors don't have this training in medical school. And so the Menopause Society and the FDA will get together and announce the standards for these prescribing of HRT. Now, the HRT protocols they'll prescribe will be low dose protocols. And because these low dose protocols are not designed for full restoration, they won't work for very long. They'll only work for a short time. And then women will be prescribed drugs to manage this mental illness diagnosis they still have. Because in order really to address the mental illness crisis that hormone deficiency puts on a woman, you have to restore the estrogen. So women will continue to have symptoms of hormone deficiencies, even though they're on HRT. And this is what women don't understand. This is actually the thing that women need to pay attention to the most. Your doctor may prescribe HRT, but that doesn't mean you're on an HRT system designed for full restoration. And so this is what women need to pay attention to. To understand the differences in the generations of HRT, we did do a podcast, episode 6, that breaks down the 4 generations of HRT. Just a brief synopsis here. First and second generation HRT systems, such as patches, creams, low-dose sprays, and other types of sublinguals, other types of methods of delivery, are designed to keep estrogen levels low, circulating levels low. Third and fourth generation HRT protocols, like a concentrated rhythmic transdermal creams or injections, cyclical protocols, are designed for full restoration. So we're filling a woman's hormone tank up completely with a full restoration, as opposed to first and second generation HRT systems that are designed to keep women in a state of deficiency. Now, when this happens, this is a business model for big pharma and really the supplement industry, because women still have symptoms. Low first and second generation protocols do not, they fix the symptoms for a while until the receptors fizzle out, because women aren't given enough estrogen. So this keeps women hormonally miserable. So this is this wave going on, and we're right now in the let's lift the black box warning, and now let's train physicians. And so this is what's really going on here. That's why this timing is happening right now.
Yeah. So if I were to make a guess as to about the timing, I would say that somebody realized that there are 50 million women with these symptoms. There's 2 more entering into having these symptoms every year. I believe those are the numbers.
Yeah.
And there's a great big market here that's been being missed. And so, okay, we'll say we listen to you. We'll give you your estrogen, ladies, but now we're going to keep it low dose. And that creates a whole other market that's been there, but it's now actually opening the door for that to be flooded with menopause management drugs, which I think that was one of the things that came out of this. And maybe we'll talk about that in a bit. But to me, this is pure marketing. Somebody saw that and said, why are we ignoring this huge market? We got to fill this.
But it's not only big pharma and supplement industries, it's women health coaches and hormone coaches that claim to be menopause experts to help women. They don't know a thing about what's going on. When women go to a hormone coach, they're expecting their hormones to be balanced, but they're not even addressing estrogen. And estrogen is the main sex hormone for women that dictates how all other hormones function, including insulin, which is what these hormone coaches typically lead with. I mean, if you really care about women and insulin and weight loss, first thing you do is restore estrogen. Give them enough. It's a real business model of managing symptoms. And that's why some of the coaches I've spoken to that have inquired about our hormone coaching, it's like, listen, your business model will change. Right now the business, and these health coaches don't like to hear this. It's like because the functional medicine training is use low dose therapies for HRT, but let's manage the symptoms of menopause. So a menopause expert's job is to manage your menopause. So for those women who are not interested in experiencing menopause or managing their menopause, you'd have to go to somebody else. So this whole movement about menopause is about managing the menopause and the symptoms of menopause and
Right. And those symptoms are either going to be managed with drugs, medications, or supplements. And, both those industries
or a combination of the 3, HRT, drugs and supplements. And that is what that's what the FDA will approve. And that's what they're going to get out of this. And this is and women think that, oh, finally they're listening to us, and they'll present it as if this was the answer from the Almighty. And women will be, so there'll be another movement. And what I did not get into with this wave is there's another side to this. And like I said, Maggie, what I'm expecting, what I'm hoping, that when women get on the other side of this, when they finally get on some estrogen and they feel good on estrogen, they will not be happy when their doctor says, well, that's all you get. Because they remember what life was like when they first started that estrogen. They felt good. Like I had a patient just start HRT the other day who's actually a physician going through our physician's training. And they're like, I have not gotten all my chores done and cleaning my house like this in years. I'm organizing my cabinets. And this was like at the end of the day of her injection. She goes, this is shocking. Shocking. If my patients experience this when they got a therapeutic dose, then I am in. This is nuts. And it's nice when physicians go through our program and they actually experience it for themselves. I get excited because this is why our doctors are required in our training to go through the program. You have to know what this is like. It's so life transformational that the doctor needs to understand what they're doing. Because in reality, Maggie, what's happening is when women choose one of these platforms to join, say MIDI or Alloy, or there's these celebrity doctors, they are actually handing over their brain and their body over to these institutions and trusting them to take care of them and their brain. The impact that this type of HRT has on the brain and body of a woman is astounding. And then you can answer the question that I asked earlier in the show was, why did they trick us in with the same type of enthusiasm into thinking that estrogen causes cancer? So everybody got off of it as if they were doing women a favor. And so these are things that women really need to pay attention to on what's really going on. But in order to understand what's going on, you have to understand the different HRT systems. So women can stand up and say, okay, I'm only given this low dose HRT. I need a more therapeutic dose. And if the doctor isn't able to get it, then women have to go to a doctor who knows how to prescribe therapeutic dose HRT. So women have to know enough about it to know, okay, this doctor knows what they're doing. I'm going to discover hormonal balance as I am supposed to experience it with these doctors that are trained in therapeutic dose protocols.
So there's another point that Dr. Makary has been repeating that is around the messaging about timing of starting HRT and this idea of the 10-year window, which he has kept repeating. What's the problem with that messaging that you're hearing?
There's a couple problems with his messaging. I'll tell you that right now, because there's in some regards, some shows he's talking about, some interviews he's talking about women starting perimenopause for the prevention of dementia, osteoporosis, Alzheimer's disease.
I mean, starting HRT in perimenopause for the prevention.
Yeah, starting perimenopause for the prevention of these conditions in perimenopause. But yet, he's mostly talking about if women need to start HRT within the 10-year window of the onset of menopause. So in his mind, women have to already be through stages 1 and 2 perimenopause, because as you know, stage 3 perimenopause is that 1 year of leading up to that anniversary of not having a period. So that means that women have to be completely deficient before he's recommending HRT. And also another point to that you and I've talked about many times, Maggie, is that he's not recommending women to be on HRT after 10 years of the onset, no matter when women start HRT within that 10-year onset.
Well, I think that has remained a very murky area because, and you would know better than I, but I haven't exactly heard them say that. It's always this thing of if started within 10 years of the onset of menopause. What I have experienced firsthand, and I hear a lot of women talking about this, is that then their doctors have interpreted that to mean that if you have been on HRT for 10 years or are 10 years post-menopause and on HRT, no matter if it's been 1 year or 10, you got to go off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're correct in that. And
that's totally wrong, right?
Well, I've been working with all forms of HRT, and for the past 15 plus years, I've been working with therapeutic dose HRT protocols. And you try to tell a woman on a therapeutic dose protocol that they need to get off of estrogen at any time in their life, and they'll put up a fight. They will fight to their death to stay on. And the fact that they don't understand this means that they don't really understand estrogen or have worked with it enough to see the clinical benefits of a therapeutic dose protocol. And this is, I think, horrible. And what is this based off of is the question. Why are you telling me this? Is it because you have clinical experience of patients having side effects that are unfavorable? Because that's not the case for us. And that's not the case for other doctors who prescribe therapeutic dose protocols. It may be the case for them because they're underdosing patients and patients are feeling worse than ever. So yeah, you probably want to get them off because they feel worse and worse and worse. But boy, when you give women enough estrogen, it restores her tissues, her organs, the processes of the body. So the body functions better. And the longer women are on estrogen, the better they feel. And so the thought of actually taking a woman off of estrogen after 10 years to me, as I believe, is just abhorrent. And to tell women that, start within 10 years, why, if you know, Dr. Makary and these other gurus, if you know the benefits of estrogen, why would you let a woman dwindle mentally, emotionally, behaviorally, physically, all the way through stage 3 perimenopause until the time when she's supposed to show up at the office saying, okay, I'm on my 1-year anniversary. Can I come in now? I mean, it's just ridiculous. So this too is one of those things. It's like, oh, well, we're telling you can have it, but we're going to give you this 10-year window. These arbitrary timelines delay the treatment and keep women deficient longer and sick and riddled with mental illness. And if you listen to what he's saying, and this is why I get angry, it's like, okay, in one regard, he's coming off as being, oh, you're a hero. In another regard, he's putting the limitations on it as if he knows. He does not know firsthand. And the experts that he's talking to do not know firsthand, because even though they prescribe bioidentical HRT, they're not prescribing it at therapeutic doses to see for themselves the full benefit estrogen gives a woman's brain and body. So this messaging, it shapes medical decisions in very harmful ways. So yeah, the whole timing thing, women, there is never a day in a woman's life where she feels good without estrogen. And this is another thing that Dr. Robert Wilson spoke about in his book, Feminine Forever. There is never a day in a woman's life where she feels good without estrogen. Women need estrogen from puberty to the grave. You cannot wait for any marker in time of their life. If they're without estrogen, you've got to get their body to produce it at therapy at optimal level, circulating levels. And if their ovaries cannot do that, or the messaging to the ovaries is broken, then you give the woman estrogen. You don't just leave her deficient. I mean, that's just ridiculous. And I think you might have made
it's barbaric.
It is. And I think you might have even mentioned before in another show, Maggie, that you don't give a diabetic woman half the insulin she needs. Why would you only give women half the estrogen her brain and body needs? And I think that they're trying to keep women in this bubble. They're trying to control this bubble so women don't go crazy with figuring out, oh, I do best when I maintain my weekly estrogen level between 300 and 500. You'll have a lot of pearl clutching of these doctors on this FDA board. Oh my gosh. Why are you, I mean, my question to them would be, why are you so afraid? I thought estrogen doesn't cause cancer. Well, you're talking off one side of your mouth how wonderful estrogen is. Who gets to decide what level that is for women?
Yeah.
And this is all the talk. And this is why I get really worked up about this. And this is why I do what I do, because there's a lot of smooth talking and quick talking going on around here, all in the name of progress for women. And I think we really need to be careful. And that's why, we both of us talked about this show, because there's nobody else that can talk about this. I mean, very few people have worked as long as I have with all forms of HRT, listening to women once every 4 months, looking at clinical indicators, looking at lab work, listening to the things women are saying on all forms of HRT. And this is the data that I'm asking for the FDA to consider. Stop leaving out therapeutic dose studies. We need clinical trials on therapeutic dose HRT protocols. We need to see all the data. You want to talk about all the data, Dr. Makary? We want all the data on all 4 generations of HRT, on all 5 clinical categories of patients. We want it all. Don't tell us we're getting it all when we're not getting it all. We're not getting it all.
Well, this leads really to talking a little bit deeper about the fact that when women hear the term low dose HRT or HRT, I think in general, when HRT or BHRT is talked about, like by Dr. Makary, it is low dose. So they never say low dose because it just is. So when women hear that this, they assume that they're getting hormone therapy. I'm a classic example of that. I was actually even better informed, but I did not know that there was a distinction that I had to make. So when I was put on HRT, I thought I was getting the HRT I wanted, which what I really wanted was full restoration. I didn't know how to ask for that. I didn't have the language for that. I trusted and assumed that the doctors knew what it was that I needed and wanted, and that by putting me on HRT, they were doing all of the right things to protect my brain and my bones and my heart.
Yeah, under
Uh,
that guise. Yeah. And
right. So
but
here
what
we
did you
are with
think?
all these women who are now maybe going to have better access to HRT with the black box warning being removed. What do they need to know about the differences? And we talk about this a ton, but I'm just going to ask you to say it again. What is the fundamental difference between low dose treatment and therapeutic dose?
Well, I wanted to ask you, Maggie, though, because there was a point where you were doing your research, and when you met with me, I told you otherwise. So I can explain the difference between the two, but what was your first response when I explained to you, broke these down in generations and explained to you what you could expect from using a therapeutic dose protocol as opposed to a low dose protocol?
It made total sense to me. All of the pieces fell into place because I had read Suzanne Summers' book years ago
Mhm.
about her doing the Wiley protocol. Um, I had actually been kind of looking around in some of the Facebook groups and had gotten hearing some women talking about therapeutic doses and their numbers being, especially estrogen, being around 250, 300. I'm like, I'm at 40. What's going on here? And then when I connected with you and you laid it all out, it just made total sense. And it's truth. And my body 100% just registered this is truth. When I hear it, I know it. And what you explained made absolute sense to me, total truth. And I'm so glad that I have made that leap because it's a whole different experience, a whole nother level.
And that's, that whole, so when you ask me about the difference between low dose and restoration, I can get into it, first and second generation, you should expect this and so on and so forth. But you want to talk about real life experiences. I mean, as I was coaching you through the, your transformational process, I mean, there were some little ups and downs, but there is a big difference between low dose and therapeutic dose.
Yeah.
And I know it was for me, but it is like night and day.
Yeah. I mean, I can tell you real clearly some of the things that were different. So I was on HRT. Okay. I was on the patch and I was on progesterone and thyroid. And I still had a lot of joint pain. I'm sitting here thinking, do I have to go in for a hip replacement? I mean, what is this that's
Yeah.
going on? So a lot of joint pain, uh, anxiety, depression, not all the time, but enough to super impact my life to think
Sure.
that this is who I am. This is, I didn't want to go on SSRIs or that type of thing. So it's just like, I guess I just have to live with this. Um, and then kind of weirder things like dry eyes and some UTIs. This is all while on HRT. I was
Yeah.
on HRT. So again, I didn't know better at the time, thinking, well, then these just must be things that happen with aging.
Hmm.
This is what's meant. My body's falling apart. Well, guess what? I'm on I'm on therapeutic dose HRT. I do not have body pains anymore. I don't have joint pain anymore. I have no depression. I have no anxiety. I have no UTIs. I mean, this
It's
is a
it's
game
crazy to
changer.
yeah, I never had another UTI. I was having them all the time. I never had another UTI. I had to adapt to being not depressed. I mean, it's just strange to live every day. So, yeah, there's a big difference between what women get with low dose HRT and therapeutic dose. So women do need to know that there is a big difference, and that's why we did that podcast, the episode 6 on it's to mention it again. understand the differences between the types of HRT systems, because this will make a big difference. So when Dr. Marty Makary starts talking about HRT, see, the problem with the FDA talking about HRT and other doctors like Dr. Makary, they're talking about HRT as if it were just one thing, like a standardized bubble. Like I think you were touching on that before when you were talking. It's not one thing. It's not, well, they want to make it one thing. They want to standardize this. They want to say, okay, this is when your patient comes in, you give them this patch at this starter dose, and then you can only go up 5 different changes, 5 different dosing up to this point. That's really going to be the standard of care, but that doesn't even, as you know, and I know, that doesn't even touch the surface for very long. Maybe a little bit when a patient starts taking HRT, they'll experience, especially if they've never had estrogen and that's their first experience, it'll wake them up going, oh my gosh, this is just the best thing ever. But then that'll fizzle out. And then they will continuously chase that type of high, estrogen high that many call it, and never get it again because they're underdosed.
Yeah.
Our goal, especially with what we do at Panacea Sciences Advanced Hormone Balancing Clinic, is we don't mess around with low static dose protocols. Our program is the reason that's set up the way that it is because it's a transformational process using therapeutic dose protocols. And as you know, it is like a metamorphic experience that lasts several months, and each month you're better than the month before. So my goal here in this particular segment of this podcast is for women to understand there is a difference. Don't settle.
So when I hear standard of care, I actually hear gatekeeping. And this
Yes, because they want
concerns
to
me.
control it.
Right.
As long as they control how much HRT women get, then they can still sell drugs and supplements and treatments, procedures, programs, all this stuff to manage the symptoms. And I say it nearly every show, Maggie, to manage the symptoms of estrogen deficiency that otherwise wouldn't exist if estrogen were fully restored. If that is, my daughter's like, I think I'm going to have that etched on your tombstone. I'm like, my kids hear it all the time. It's like women suffer from these symptoms that they really wouldn't have. And that's why I got so heated when it finally hit me. I've been underdosed this whole time. I was told I was crazy this whole time, and I believe these experts.
Yeah. The number of women in these forums, online that share information, and the ones that really are uninformed, asking, I'm feeling depression, anxiety, they list all these things. They have no idea that this could be and likely is related to estrogen deficiency.
Because physicians are taught when you give a patient a clinical diagnosis, there's a protocol that goes with it. And the first line of therapy is you write prescriptions for the approved pharmaceuticals. And the doctor doesn't think for themselves to say, okay, well, let's get to the root of this. Why are you having headaches? In fact, not only that, you're not only having headaches, you're getting menstrual migraines, your menstrual cycles are off, you have mood swings, depression. And so these women are getting these diagnoses from doctors who have not been trained on estrogen. And these doctors who have not been trained on estrogen, and they're prescribing hormones of something they've never been trained on. This is why I say women have to be careful with who you're actually handing over your mental health to this person. You best be making sure that they're trained in the hormones that they're prescribing. And they're not prescribing low dose protocols just enough to make you feel good for a few months. And then now you're going to be on a bunch of products that you'll have to take the rest of your life because this doctor has convinced you that this is the protocol that's for you because it's FDA and Menopause Society approved. When you talk about off-label, HRT does need to be prescribed off-label, and it needs to be prescribed at therapeutic doses, not low doses. And so that's why this warning label is really bothersome to me. And this really is problematic because just because they remove the black box warning doesn't mean that they remove the warning.
Well, I was just going to ask you about that. That's the biggest.
So why remove the warning?
It's kind of a little bit of a bait and switch feeling here of
ta-da,
fanfare. We removed the black box warning, trumpets
and
heralding.
We're going to talk about how wonderful estrogen is, but we're going to keep the warning.
But so tell me about that. I don't think most women probably realize this. What do you mean by this?
They kept the warning that estrogen makes women more susceptible to cardiovascular disease and heart disease and heart attacks and breast cancer. It's like, really?
So
he's just saying how
help
protective.
us explain. So what's the black box warning versus the warning?
Well, the black box warning is the most severe. And this was what was needed years ago to keep, because doctors were continuing to write HRT prescriptions. But if the FDA stepped in and said, we're going to give it the most severe and announce it, and now everybody knows that there is this severe warning on here. So women, don't ask your doctors for HRT. And doctors, if your women ask for HRT, don't prescribe it because of this fear. So if you take away the severe warning, the doctors are more apt to write the prescription. And at the same time that we remove the black box warning, we'll talk about how wonderful estrogen is. And then, so my question to Dr. Marty Makary was, why have the warning at all? If estrogen is cancer protective, if estrogen has all these benefits, especially if women start HRT and perimenopause, as Dr. Marty Makary has also suggested, for dementia prevention, he's talking about using estrogen for the prevention of dementia, for the prevention of osteoporosis, for the prevention of cardiovascular disease. Why isn't he talking about that mostly? I mean, he kind of throws that in. Why? That's like burying the lead, in my opinion. Why is
Right.
he
Well,
saying
you also
that? And
can't
what's
have it both ways. You can't be out there trumpeting that this is the benefit of estrogen and then keep a warning like that. I mean, where does that leave
that's the
doctors?
confusing part. It's okay. So we're still going to stay confused. And he keeps talking about clarity. Clarity. This isn't clear, Dr. Carey. If estrogen really didn't cause cancer, then why are we continuing to prescribe them low doses? Why would we continue the low dose? That's why, I believe that's why they're keeping that warning label in there, so they can say, well, we just don't know really. We just
Well,
don't
that
have enough
doesn't,
data.
I mean, that doesn't instill confidence in women or doctors about this. And
But then they'll
that's,
say, but we're going to give it to you. We're just going to give you protective doses, is what they'll say. And this is why I tell women, listen, you need to pay attention here. Women need to really understand, if there's any message really I can leave women, it's you need to understand how much estrogen your brain and body require. Maggie, if somebody told you that you need to lower your estrogen because the FDA said that what you're taking is too much, that you need to go back down to lower your estrogen levels until you're in the double digits, I mean, what would you do?
I don't think I can say that publicly, Marie.
They're really, because life isn't worth living, and we've talked about this, and we've interviewed some patients on therapeutic dose that they'll hear these women say the same thing. Life isn't worth living. That's one of the first things I hear from women. Life isn't worth living. So with the warning label, ladies, all of you that are listening in, this was a visibility change, not a scientific correction. So the FDA moved the severity of the warning, but they kept the warning. And so you have to ask yourself why this is. So there's more secrets that lie ahead that they're not going to expose to you. It creates this illusion of progress when we're not really having progress here. We're not having any sort of meaningful change. So really the dosing and access and physician training remain untouched. That's
Well, and
basically
that
what's
really
happening.
gets us into a next point here, encouraging women to talk to their doctors. Okay, so not only have we had a generation of women who did not get proper HRT, if they got any at all, we have a generation of doctors who weren't trained on this. So we're telling women to go talk to their doctors about this, but we also are acknowledging, Dr. Makary's acknowledging that the doctors aren't trained and they need to train them. So how are women supposed to navigate this right now? Because it's going to take another generation for
Yeah.
doctors to be fully informed here. And uh, and
Yeah.
again, how they're going to be informed and how they're going to be trained is a whole other issue. But let's stick right now to this point about Dr. Makary directing women to talk to their doctors about HRT.
Yeah. Because I tell you, this is another point where Dr. Makary talks out of both sides of his mouth. First, he's saying our doctors need training. Our doctors aren't trained. They got no education or training on menopause, estrogen, HRT. This just did not happen. But go talk to your doctor about HRT. We will tell them what to prescribe, how to prescribe it. They can read the package insert. And then we're putting together trainings for these physicians, but it's not available yet. But we do have guidelines through the Menopause Society that doctors can reference. So this training, and this is where I want women to really pay attention here. The training is a very conventional medicine type. If your patient has menopause, you give them the diagnostic code, and this is now the standard of care. Prescribe this, refer patients for this treatment, and so on and so forth. It is a standard of care, a conventional medicine approach. And this approach isn't very effective for anybody long term. And this is why women need to first figure out how much estrogen you need, and then find a doctor who knows how to prescribe therapeutic dose protocols. Because if you go to the doctors that the FDA and the Menopause Society is recommending, like say Menopause Society trained physicians, you are guaranteed to never get your hormones balanced ever. It will be an exercise of low dose adjustments on your HRT protocols and drugs and supplements to manage the symptoms. And that's just what they're offering. And so I think it's a joke that Dr. Makary tells women, go talk to your doctor. And so it turns into a real circus that women aren't getting their hormones balanced. So I think what Dr. Makary is saying, go to your doctor. They can use the Menopause Society protocols, and they can just go online and print out the PDF format. And this is good enough training as long as they're prescribing hormones as we recommend.
Well,
because they have to do it that way.
That's what just occurred to me, is that by opening this floodgate of women who are now going to be asking for this, and before doctors are ready for it, they're going to make doctors real dependent on doing it their way, because they're going to be caught flat-footed. They're going to be taught completely flat-footed. So before any further research can be done or any real training, doctors are getting calls already, right? So what are they going to do? They're going to follow exactly what the Menopause Society is saying, or whatever the FDA is like, or insurance companies. That'll be the next thing. You can only have this because your insurance will only cover this. This is all going to become regulated.
It's a part of the wave, Maggie. So we need to do a show on every step of this wave and what to expect and what the future holds. Because if we can take a step back, step out of the forest and take a look at what's really going on here, and then women hearing us talk about this such thing as therapeutic dosing and getting enough, then they'll step back and say, hold on a second, I see what y'all are doing here. I would hate to have them jump up on this bandwagon here, what's going on, thinking it's something that's good for them. And like you said, another generation of going through an HRT system that won't serve them, not for very long. And then that group, that generation at the end will saying, okay, what we really needed was more. Oh yeah, we got that wrong. Yeah, you needed more. And just like what they're doing now, we got that wrong, all to shut us up. And it's a way to control women in this bubble, because I would have to say the pharmaceutical probably makes more money off of suffering women from hormone deficiency diseases than anything else. I would have to say than all demographics put together.
Yeah.
So basically, before a woman is born, she is really tagged with the pharmaceutical industry. So women, in order to control this, women actually, and this is the good news, Maggie, is women can actually control this ride, but they have to recognize what's going on. So really, women will be in the future. I see women investing in their health, saying, okay, I need somebody who knows how to fully restore my hormones so that I can manage that optimal hormone homeostasis for life, so that I'm less likely to get dementia, Alzheimer's, osteoporosis, all the symptoms that these industries associate with menopause. Yeah. So these doctors aren't trained. Women have to be careful with the doctors they go to, because they're not trained. So thank you, Dr. Makary, for telling women, go to your doctor and ask them for HRT. They won't be trained, but ask them anyway. Well, if they can't do it, then they'll be able to prescribe something for you. So don't suffer in silence, because menopause has symptoms. And that's probably one of the biggest lies ever told, IMO.
I wanted to clarify one point you said a little ways back, that women need to understand how much estrogen they need. And I just want to clarify that you're not saying that like literally I need to have 0.3 milliliters, milligrams, whatever it is. You're not saying that someone has to go in and ask for the amount. No. What you mean by that, I believe, is that they need to understand that there's a difference in how much low dose and therapeutic And that when you say they need to know how much estrogen they need to know that there is a place where they don't have all of these symptoms and side effects of estrogen and hormone deficiency, and that requires therapeutic dosing.
Well, because you and I both know what it feels like to have enough estrogen. Most women don't. So we know what we need. And if our estrogen was ever lowered, we know that we would need more to not feel the side effects of estrogen deficiency. And so this is why women, in order to know what you need, you have to get some. And if you're always underdosed, you will never know how much you need. So you have to seek out doctors who are trained in therapeutic dose protocols so you can at least get enough in your system. That's why getting on hormones the very first time for me, my first taste of estrogen, I'd never lived a day of my life with plenty of estrogen, ever. So my first taste of estrogen was just so euphoric. And it was crazy. And I'm like, I can't believe I can be this happy every day for no real good reason. Why was this withheld from me for the first 30 something years of my life? Who got to decide how much estrogen I had? Who kept ignoring my estrogen levels, but telling me I have all these mental illness diagnoses, and that's what I've been managing my entire adult life? So yeah, women, don't trust what's going on here. You have to challenge the status quo, because that's what's happening, is women are being led through this wave for more money to be made off of their suffering. And one of the best ways for women to really give the middle finger up at the establishment is to say, no, I'm going to get myself some good hormones, restore my estrogen and progesterone and my other missing hormones, so I don't have the side effects that everybody's telling me, trying to convince me that are from perimenopause, PMS, PMDD, perimenopause, menopause, whatever name, it's all the same, estrogen deficiency. So that's that whole lifelong, you have this, and all these conditions are really caused by estrogen deficiency. When I realized that, as you did too, Maggie, you look back and think all I needed was estrogen all along. Yeah, be careful with who you're listening to.
Yeah, pretty stunning. So let's shift gears and give women a clear direction forward. For women who are listening and who want real hormone restoration, not the low dose symptom management, where should they start?
Well, I think the first thing, as you hear me say, is women have to understand how much they need, because most women have never lived a day of their lives with estrogen. They don't even know what it's like to have that light go on in their brain, to have it work seamlessly day after day after day, confidently.
Or they've bought into the fact that these things no longer working and all these symptoms are just part of aging, and deal with it. Let's suffer through it together. This is the sisterhood of suffering.
Yeah.
So they have to question.
Yeah.
They have to question
you don't
and
have
realize that there's something more. Literally, there is something more.
And know that they're being underdosed. So women need to seek out practitioners like us. I mean, honestly, I think we're one of the best clinics in the world. I mean, for advanced hormone restoration therapy, there are very few people who know more about HRT restoration than we do. And our goal is to train more physicians. So even physicians listening out there, if you want to be trained in therapeutic dose HRT protocols where you can restore a woman's brain and body, and you'll know it by the health of her menstrual cycle, there is nothing like it as a practitioner. It is so rewarding to have a practice where your patients are feeling better and better and better every time they see you. They are so excited about how happy they are, about how their bodies are doing and their brains are working. And so as long as women understand the approach of menopause doesn't have symptoms, and this is what needs to be clear. Don't look at menopause as a condition that has symptoms, which is what they want you to believe, so they can treat your menopausal symptoms. Because if we look at menopause as the deficiency disease that it is, a side effect of estrogen deficiency, because women with plenty of estrogen and progesterone never experience menopause in their lifetime. They can regulate a healthy menstrual cycle whether they have a uterus or not. So if you look at menopause as just one more side effect of estrogen deficiency, you can find a doctor who specializes in full hormone restoration. Restoring hormones is one of the best gifts a woman can give herself and her family, Because when you restore estrogen, you're restoring brain function, and it's mental illness preventative. It's physical decline preventative. The brain and body are destined to fall apart when you keep a woman estrogen deficient. So the biggest thing I think women should understand is how much estrogen they need. Find a doctor who specializes in full hormone restoration and follow the recommendations of that program so you can get to a place of optimal hormone homeostasis, and then spend the rest of your life living your life and maintaining that hormonal balance instead of spending the rest of your life trying to find symptom relief with all the other crazy women doing the same.
So for all the women who feel underdosed, dismissed, or unsure of where to turn, what do they need to hear most right now, Marie?
Don't follow the status quo. Ask questions. Ask why now. Ask how much estrogen are you allowing me to have, and why are you underdosing me? These are some really good questions. Once you get enough estrogen in your brain and you get a taste of what it's like, you will never live another day without it. And you'll see the importance of having physicians trained in this protocol. You will go through an angry spell like most women do when they realize that they've been had all these years. This is the best way you can take control of your life. Dr. Makary said every woman needs to know the data and to not follow the dogma's sake. And that is really clear with this. And I know that he didn't intend on this, but the truer words have never been spoken. Don't follow along with the status quo. Don't follow dogma for dogma's sake. Ask questions. Ask why they're continuing to underdose you, even though they remove the black box warning. Don't settle for less. And don't follow the menopause dogma that's been laid out there for you. It's time for women to stand up and demand real and full hormone restoration with advanced HRT protocols.
Marie, thank you for that. And thank you to our listeners for joining us today.
So I know this looks like progress, but without truth, it's just performance. Women deserve more than symbolic progress. They deserve full physiologic restoration, and doctors trained to deliver it. Not another decade of underdosing and suffering for women. If today's episode made you question whether you need HRT or whether your current therapy is serving you, trust that instinct. Your brain, your body, and your future health depend on getting this right, not to mention your loved ones. If you're ready to discover hormonal balance as you were supposed to experience it, book a complimentary discovery session at advancedhormonebalancing.com. You don't have to live hormonally deficient, not one more day. Remember, everybody benefits when your hormones are balanced. I'm Marie Hoäg, and this is the MeNoPause Moxie podcast.